Vi chiedo gentilmente di ritornare a sedervi tutti quanti, così possiamo dare il benvenuto al prossimo studio. Grazie. I now call on stage Gangoli and Christiner Architekten, House Between the Mountains project from Best International Houses exhibition.
Hello, good afternoon from my side. Before I start off, I want to thank Casa Platform and especially you, Christina, and your team for the charming welcome here in this beautiful atmosphere, giving us the opportunity to show you the house between the mountains and some outtakes of our present work. My name is Dominik Tropan, and I'm one of 4 partners of our architectural practice that is based in Graz and Vienna in Austria. The house between the mountains is located in the Ausseerland in Bad Aussee, in the region of Styria, close to the border to Salzburg. It has always been an incredible, attractive place, so thought as well, this guy, Erzherzog Johann, the Archduke, he was part of the Habsburg monarchy, and he was a modernizer, a reformer, and an furtherer for the whole region of Styria. And first, when he came to this place, to this area in 1800, he was immediately in love with the scenery and with the people. And about 20 years later, he again fell in love, but with the local postmaster daughter, Anna, his wife. And they both became the identification figures of this region. And he actually is the inventor of the Ausseerland region as the first touristic development in Styria. And the starting point of an structural and more architectural development in this region longs back about 100 years from now, when townspeople and rich folks from the cities and especially from Switzerland came to this area to do their summer resort in the Ausseer region. And what they found was a beautiful landscape, the lake, the Ausseer lake embedded in the mountain scenery. These 2 pictures may show best the beauty of its place in summer and as well as in winter time. And actually the traditional Ausseer building and the building culture is embossed by simple functional buildings with gabled roofs, small windows, and no decoration. Actually, coming from an agricultural lifestyle, and this style may have changed a bit by the influence of the guests from Switzerland and around. So bigger balconies were added and wide overhanging roofs and richer decoration were parts of this style then. So against the background of the tradition and the surrounding scenery, we designed the building, the house between the mountains, as a summer and a winter resort for a family and friends. You can see that we dealt with the hillside situation with a one-story basis embedded in the landscape underneath a cross-gable construction that allows us to direct the building in 4 directions equally. From a further perspective, you see that this part opens to the downhill side view. We are in the living area that generously opens to the surrounding scenery. From that room, you have the view to the lakeside and the village that are located in the dale. The reverse view shows the center of the house, the staircase, and the chimney, situated at an airspace that connects to the upper floor. To the right side, here to the right side, next to the kitchen, you have the dining area situated at the 2-story glass front, framing the mountain landscape with its particular plateau-like shape. We used this brushed brass contrastive material in the kitchen, as well as in the background of this double sliding door here that connect a media room to the living area. It's a velvet room with its own distinctive atmosphere and coziness. We are upstairs, actually directly under the intersection of the roofs, covered with this wooden cladding. On the right side, the gallery space. On the left side, the closets and the private bedrooms. And let's take a closer look to this door that gives an impression of the bathrooms in its bright and colorful design. A small detail here to the left side is the elevator door that is painted in the colors of the traditional women dress, the Ausea Dirndl. I want to guide you quickly through the floor plans of the house. The layout of the first floor defines as well the outside spaces, such as the entryway, the timber storage, and the 2 bigger terraces with wider overhanging roofs dependent on the use. And the upper floor actually consists of a master bedroom and 2 smaller bedrooms. Here the intersection of the roof with a skylight in the middle, and the generous gallery space located in this 2-story glass front that we saw before on the pictures. I want to show you another project in a similar scale. It's a rural ensemble of 5 houses that we renovated in the region of Styria. And in the center, the main house of the family that we renovated the old part and extended it for about 50% of its ground floor size. And the view inside may give you an idea how we deal with the coexistence of the existing part and the new part. A project of a bigger scale is the Smart City Quadrat in Graz, in our hometown. It is part of a big district development, and we are planning, we are planning 360 apartments on a commercial basis with a richly planted inner courtyard that is open to the public. This project is currently under construction. And I want to finish up with this project. It is a housing project that we planned together with Ordner and Ordner Baukunst in Vienna. It is 115 apartments as part of a development of a bigger part development. And we found a really special situation on this plot because it is a park site. So the trees that surround the building literally really closely reach up until the 8th floor of our house. And you see here the first renderings and a photo that we took about 2 weeks ago. And on the intersection of those two building parts, we situated this roof terrace for the housing community on top, a green oasis in addition to the park-like surrounding landscape. And these little atmospherical accents on the building corners are lights. It's two lanterns facing the street side. And this image actually stands for certain atmospherical detail, decorative detail that is always really important in our work, and somehow an atmospherical density that is always part of our projects. We are Gangoli and Christina Architect, and I want to thank you for your interest.
And now here we go with Bluff Architekten with He House project from Best International Houses exhibition.
Good afternoon. Thank you also for inviting us. It's also a real pleasure to be here. Wrote some things down, but I just tried to talk a bit with the images. So this is the He House in Ghent, Belgium. The office is Bluff Architekten, which I founded about 20 years ago. It's bluff, it's how a dog barks in Flemish. We're a studio, an architecture studio, also urban design, mostly from maybe known as pioneers in sustainability, circular design. We are a researching and a searching practice for being a practice of change. So this is our mission statement with a lot of commitment, research, and intuition, which leads to responsibility, innovation, and a signature. We are about 15 people at the moment, working together in a smaller office in Lokeren. This is an article about our work in the last Belgian most magazine. We are also at the Biennale in the Belgian pavilion with a project. I start some projects in before the GEG house to understand it in a better way. So this is a bus which is renovated by someone who works with Bluff, an interior. He lives in this bus now together with his wife and one child, just born. The reuse of materials, small renovations, just to only build with the reused materials. Also the glass and the plafond. So extensions in wood, not as usual, as you may think in Flanders. We built with the brick walls, but my father was a carpenter and I started really quick with wooden structures. In the inside, box-in-box principles in existing buildings, always on a very compact way, a sustainable way. So some new buildings I will show you, sustainable experiments and research, a lot of geometrical forms, houses I think Blav is known for, just because of the way of the different ways of constructing in hybrid structures, very on a small way, on a compact way. So this is a house 10 years ago, which was nominated for the Mies van der Rohe Award, our first passive house. And since then, we only build passive houses. This is from the outside, the house with textile skin, and this is the inside with a more massive inside. Outside, also passive house inside. And this is the first time where we designed those kind of slates. It's commercialized by Ethernet afterwards. The inside, outside, inside, outside, inside. So what about brick is something special because all the passive houses were made with a really thin skin. But in Belgium, we have a lot of brick houses on the outside. So we started investigating how we can build on a hybrid way with a very light wooden structure in existing buildings, how we can make those kind of houses ready for the next 100 years. With a lot of researching with new technology on a low-tech way. So this is an example of every house we build in a different kind of way, in different kind of ways of building a wall. So this is we put it together in terms of years. And then in brick, we first started to reuse brick because there is a lot in Belgium. So we wanted to make a statement that not only in the renovation, but also in new buildings, we can build on the same way. So this was the first one, the NA house. We first built the wall, and then the roof, and afterwards like a decor, and in the interior, the wooden light structure. some other buildings with the reused brick on the outside and the wooden structure on the inside. So we come to the Ghent house. It's more, it's in a forest-like, but it's beneath an autostrad. Not, so it's built in a way, first geometrical way, because of some keeping between the trees. That's why it became the form, because of the trees around it. And then the steel and wooden structure, tree storage house. Also important was the brick for the acoustics from the autostrad, which is above it. And yeah, just the plans, but the pictures tell a lot. Just for the feeling of the outside and the inside is like the same. The man of the house, he helped a lot with the steel structure himself. Okay. So afterwards, we started to develop our own bricks, just to make, because the curved house is also just to become a self-bearing structure. So we are looking now for developing bricks which carry themselves apart from the wooden inside. So this was the first one manufactured by Wienerberger. We designed. It's my own house I'm living in, also with the wooden structure on the inside. In Mechelen, a triangular house. And then we came to the second brick we developed right now together with Ploegsteert. And now we're making bigger projects. We did like 700 houses the last 20 years, and now we're building in, I think, the next 3 to 4 years, more than 1,000 houses, but more in a bigger scale. Like, for example, this one, the old docks in Ghent. Thank you.
Now, please welcome on stage Francisco Pardo Arquitecto with APAM Prototype Project from Best International Houses Exhibition.
Hola. Oh, okay. Works. Hello, I'm Francisco Pardo from Mexico City. Grazie tante Simona, Cristina, for being here, for organizing this amazing show, space, and exhibition. So that I can be very quick, I want to show this prototype Um, in 2018, there was a big disaster earthquake in the center area of Mexico. So because of this, the government asked a lot of offices of architects to start understanding the housing not only as a new element, but also as a way of understanding poverty and the new times of a country that could actually change its way of living. We're talking of a country that is 120 million people, and Mexico City, a city that is 25 million people. The problem of housing is a very big one. The problem of how to make possible the dream of having a house. It's very complex, and it's not only about architecture, it's about politics, it's about economics, and it's about other things. This is a study that I did in the suburbs outside of the cities of Mexico to understand auto construction. Auto construction in Mexico is 95% of what's built. Architects are involved in only 5 to 7% of the build of the building of the country. So it's very important to understand the idea of design in auto construction or construction made by their own people with their own hands, and understanding the aesthetics of this. I think it's fantastic the way they permeate in design all these ideas. And there's one that I'm always fascinated with, the idea of stairs that are outside, so they can actually, one single house can become two houses. So when you have let me see if I, oh, sorry. Okay, there it is. So this is the center of the seismic area that was really bad damage, very close to Mexico City. It's an area in the center, and the government asked us to do 1 hectare or 100 meters by 100 meters and understand the territory into housing. So it's 32 offices making 32 different prototypes to re-understand the housing problem. So what we did in the studio is a form that is very simple. We just started to understand that this is not a city, this is in the middle of the field outside of the city. So we wanted to do a new kind of a structure, a new kind of a system. And this system is when you can buy a piece of land like this, and then you can expand your piece of land. And then this is a system that is not linear and is not a grid, it's just a curve kind of system that could actually be able to grow. So if you take one piece of this, it's a 4-meter radius, happy face, and then you just repeat this 4 times, and that's the boundary of the site. And the boundary of the site is the wood wall, right? And the wood wall is the definition of your property and the field. So that's where you have chickens, or when you have cows, or where you have a house eventually. But then you can buy a new piece of land and you can expand, and you just turn one of these modules and you just turn it, and then it becomes more modules. So it becomes this system. So you could have an agricultural field, animal area, and your house, a little barn. And this is a system of a little town or a little village. If we take one of these different systems, you can do whatever you want. You can do 2 floors, 1 floor, it doesn't really matter. And the in-between space, in between those houses, is the area for gathering, for social gathering, for kids playing, for cars even. So this is a system of a little village that we designed, and we just made the idea, of course, imaginary, of a possibility of how to build a design form of a villa without having context. So all the activities that are community activities are in between the houses, and the private areas are what belongs to each family. So the module is this, again. And then the house is placed first floor, 32 square meters, and then you can build second floor, and that second floor could work as a storage for the field, and then later when the family grows, it could be a second floor for the structure. So the house is very simple. It has a lower part that is all the services, bathroom, kitchen, and room, and then storage on the top, if it's a storage. If not, you close it with glass, and then it becomes the second floor of the house. So that's the first floor. Very, very simple, very small. Second floor. So the idea of the stair in the exterior is because sometimes these houses are rented, or they are two families living at the same time in those spaces. So you can have an extension of the family. So this is a drawing of all the prototypes from all the different architects. This is a drawing made by Moss in Boston that was hired to do the arrangement of all the, this is a laboratory of housing from the government. It's already built. And these are all the prototypes, different architects. Our prototype is right here, and it was built as part of a showroom for developers. That's ours. That's Alberto Calach. That's Tatiana Bilbao. That's different architects in Mexico that were part of this. Some architects from Los Angeles, some architects from Boston also were part of this proposition. So this is the final build area. That is a pan prototype campus. That is a laboratory for investigation of housing, and the different prototypes allow you to see the different forms and different possibilities for housing. That's ours. It's a tiny little house, not finished with the round thing, but almost. So, it doesn't work. Okay. So, okay. So each one of these is a prototype for social housing, right? There are 32 prototypes. Ours is here. So the first floor, brick, and the 4 entrances to have wind crossing. And then the upper floor is concrete, is the barn or is the storage area. And furniture made especially for this prototype. Very simple materials, very simple spaces. You open up the 4 sides and it just crosses the whole weather, and it becomes very simple, very passive. And very cheap. This is a house that costs around $7,000 to $8,000 or euros, more or less. And that's about it. Thank you very much.
And now here we go with Davide Macullo Architects, Swiss House 35, from Best International Houses Exhibition.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti, intanto ringrazio l'organizzazione per averci invitato qui a esporre questo progetto, che è un progetto un po' borderline rispetto all'architettura, perché mi interessa un po' forse uscire dal tema per incontrare un altro tema che è molto peculiare e molto interessante. Innanzitutto mi presento perché sono Mario Gemin, non sono Davide Macullo, perché Davide Macullo, arrivando dalla Svizzera, ha avuto qualche problema per le restrizioni recenti apportate per quanto riguarda le norme anti-Covid. Io collaboro con Davide Macullo dal 1991 e ho anche seguito questa esperienza di Rossa, che è un piccolo paese della Val Calanca nei Grigioni svizzeri. Vedete, il tema è quello proprio del futuro dell'architettura, un progetto che cresce con la comunità. Qui diciamo ci troviamo in un luogo abbastanza peculiare, vedete è un piccolo villaggio dell'Alta Val Calanca, e questa valle ha una storia un po' particolare perché è una valle anche molto nascosta, diciamo, la si incontra, bisogna proprio saper che esiste per poterci entrare. Quindi è un luogo forse più vicino all'eremitaggio rispetto alla montagna come la immaginiamo noi oggi, una montagna aperta al turismo soprattutto e che viene sfruttata proprio per le valenze del turismo. Qui invece non abbiamo particolari valenze legate al turismo, vedete anche una valle piuttosto angusta, ristretta, proprio perché Rossa è il terminale di questa valle, è l'ultimo paese che si incontra in questa valle che, pensate, nel 1600 aveva 3.000 abitanti e oggi non arriva neanche a 1.000 abitanti in tutto, quindi ha perso il ruolo che aveva avuto nel passato. Nel passato era molto ambito poter abitare in questi luoghi, proprio perché erano dei luoghi raccolti che garantivano una certa sicurezza. Le scorrerie quasi sempre percorrevano la valle, diciamo, dove c'è Castelgrande a Bellinzona, ma difficilmente si saliva fino a questi luoghi così nascosti. Vedete, parliamo quindi di un piccolo villaggio, si chiama Rossa, e pensate che nel 1600 questo villaggio aveva 800 abitanti. Nel 2012 la popolazione era scesa a 100 anime, ma dovete immaginare che di queste 100 anime non c'era neanche un bambino. Quindi diciamo, il futuro di questo villaggio era in pratica l'estinzione, proprio perché non esistevano nuove leve, quindi diventava proprio una zona dormitorio per chi poi lavorava magari a Bellinzona o a Lugano. Vedete, nel 2020, grazie proprio alle iniziative che adesso andremo a raccontare, gli abitanti sono passati da 100 a 160 e sono continuamente in crescita perché continua a esserci una certa richiesta di andare a abitare in questi luoghi. Ovviamente parliamo di piccoli numeri, ecco, che non fanno neanche storia, però è molto interessante il processo. Vedete, questa è proprio la valle, eccola qui, con tutti gli interventi che sono questi pallini rossi che entrano a far parte di questo progetto. Un progetto che in qualche modo mirava al ripopolamento di questa valle, quindi trovare un nuovo significato per attrarre popolazione e per incentivare soprattutto la popolazione locale a non andare via da questa valle. E quindi cosa si è fatto? Il turismo non era percorribile proprio perché il paese, vedete, è un paese molto, molto piccolo, quindi non consente la creazione di grandi alberghi, grandi strutture. Portare laboratori artigianali, portare attività produttive era impensabile, viste anche le valenze del territorio dal punto di vista paesaggistico, e quindi proprio Davide Macullo ha pensato ancora nella seconda metà degli anni 90, anche sulla spinta di persone, amici come me che venivo dall'Italia, che dicevo guarda che questo è un posto che ha delle potenzialità enormi in effetti, non dovrà diventare una località turistica, però può diventare qualcos'altro. E si è partiti proprio da una frase di Bruno Munari, che dice appunto che la civiltà esiste in un paese quando la popolazione vive nella propria arte, con la propria arte. E quindi si è pensato proprio di, diciamo, attrarre una serie di artisti in questo luogo per far sì che la vocazione di questo paese possa svilupparsi proprio grazie all'arte contemporanea. Ovviamente era una scommessa non così semplice da mettere in pratica, e il primo passo è stato proprio la realizzazione. Davide ha voluto dare il proprio esempio, quindi dare lo spunto, dare l'avvio a questo processo, creando la propria casa. Vedete, una casa su 2 piani con poi un piano soppalcato in alto, l'ha chiamata Swiss House, Casa Rossa, e per creare questa casa ha chiamato un artista molto famoso che era Daniel Buren da Parigi, colui che aveva realizzato la corte del Palais Royal a Parigi. E quindi Buren ha vestito la casa, vedete, con questo con questo trattamento colore verde e colore rosa salmone che poi si scurisce verso l'alto, e poi applicando questi listelli bianchi, queste strisce che disegnano appunto questo cromatismo su una facciata di una casa che vedete è una casa molto semplice. Un altro tema che è tipico proprio di questi paesi sono le case patriziali. Ecco, noi non dice niente, però le famiglie patrizie ancora in questi in questi piccoli villaggi della Svizzera sono le famiglie che sono native del luogo e quindi sono, diciamo, i rappresentanti anche del potere amministrativo in questo luogo. E tutti gli insediamenti, vedete le palazzine che ci sono in questo villaggio, non sono delle piccole case rurali come i masi che si trovano nelle nostre Dolomiti, sono proprio delle palazzine vere e proprie su 3 livelli e quindi diventano le cosiddette case patrizie che quindi hanno una loro presenza sul territorio. Davide Macullo ha ripreso quindi la presenza di questi manufatti con una certa stereometria, però ha voluto creare una specie di dinamismo con questo impianto a croce che in qualche modo sfugge anche dal punto di vista, come dire, attutisce, attenua, mitiga l'impatto di questo nuovo volume realizzato interamente in legno. E un po' con il tetto a falde, che sembra un po' la casa che farebbe un bambino, insomma, la casa quasi il modello ancestrale della casa d'abitazione. Qui si vede proprio la casa in rapporto con il campanile della piccola parrocchiale del paese, vedete come il volume appunto riprende quello delle case patrizie, però con gli angoli smussati abbiamo una continuità, soprattutto all'interno, che dilata lo spazio di questa residenza. Ecco quindi questa idea, diciamo, dell'arte nell'architettura, qui si vede il paese nelle varie ore del giorno, questo è l'interno della casa con i mobili tutti realizzati in legno e vedete la struttura che è in X-lam e in pannelli di legno di abete multistrato. I soppalchi sembrano quelli che un po' riprendono, dove normalmente c'è il letto, riprende proprio l'uso di abitare nella parte più alta dove si raccoglieva il calore nelle case degli antichi abitanti di questo borgo. Il tetto che vedete da fuori sembrava molto banale, ma dentro è inserito con un certo dinamismo perché è in qualche modo ruotato rispetto alla croce, quindi questo gioco delle carpenterie movimenta l'intera casa. E qui cominciamo proprio a entrare nel vivo della questione, cioè di come questo progetto di chiamare gli artisti in questa piccola località poi è stato fatto proprio dalla comunità locale, dai giovani che sono cominciati ad arrivare, dal parroco, dal sindaco, e quindi tutta una serie di avvenimenti. Questo è l'architetto Macullo, ecco, visto che almeno lo vedete in fotografia, che ovviamente questi happening, questi party, hanno dato la possibilità di far conoscere in tutta la Svizzera questa attività che si stava svolgendo in questo piccolo paese. È un luogo molto peculiare anche per quanto riguarda la biodiversità, perché abbiamo il bosco, abbiamo le radure, abbiamo la pianura, abbiamo i laghi, quindi la presenza dell'acqua del torrente. E vedete com'era la montagna in origine, cioè questo è proprio, sono i declivi che scendono verso il torrente che man mano sono stati lasciati in abbandono. Una volta il bosco era un bosco amico, un bosco che veniva abitato dall'uomo, fruito dall'uomo. Quindi chi andava a far legna camminava nel bosco, puliva i sentieri, faceva le manutenzioni, cosa che negli ultimi 2 secoli era completamente scomparsa. E quindi vedete che le piantumazioni selvatiche poi hanno preso, si sono sviluppate e di fatto non hanno impedito proprio di poter vivere il bosco. Non solo, ma si era scoperto che in origine il vecchio borgo di Rossa era proprio in questa zona, ma soprattutto qui gli antichi abitanti di Rossa, a partire dal 1400, avevano edificato tutta una serie di muretti di contenimento del terreno, di terrazzamenti per poter coltivare anche questi ambiti così in declivio che era impossibile coltivare. Quindi vediamo come l'uomo in qualche modo ha manipolato il paesaggio per poter continuare le proprie attività. E qui vedete una chiesetta già modificata da Tremlet, come vedremo in seguito. Quindi è stata fatta tutta una deforestazione, poi vediamo come è stato utilizzato il legno, proprio per rimettere in vista quello che era diciamo, quella zona come veniva appunto utilizzata per l'agricoltura. Poi sono state pensate anche delle case molto piccole per accogliere gli artisti in modo che possano venire qui durante i mesi estivi per lavorare. E queste case erano delle case prefabbricate, sempre realizzate in legno, una sorta proprio di existence minimum delle cellule, che venivano collocate lungo il greto del torrente per appunto accogliere questi visitatori durante l'estate. Non solo, ma sempre vicino al torrente, questa è la casa che abbiamo visto prima, qui veniva creato un auditorium per le lezioni che questi artisti, le conferenze che potevano fare, non solo per gli abitanti anche, ma per chi arriva dalla vicina Bellinzona e da Lugano. Dovete immaginare che questo luogo così da eremiti, in verità si trova a mezz'ora di auto da Bellinzona e a meno di un'ora di auto da Lugano. Questa era l'immagine proprio dell'auditorium per le conferenze, e in contemporanea, sempre lungo il torrente è stato immaginato questo progetto che è in via di esecuzione, si chiama Maci Rossa, che non è altro che un acronimo. Museum à Croissant Illimité, Musée à Croissant Illimité, che non era altro che l'idea che aveva avuto nel 1939 Le Corbusier, con quel suo progetto un po' utopico di questo museo che poteva andare ad accrescersi continuamente nel tempo, ed è proprio l'idea che viene ripresa in questo paese di Rossa. Vedete, un museo che non è altro che un percorso all'aperto dove i visitatori, vedete, possono guardare le opere d'arte collocate in questi scrigni di legno protetti dalle vetrine, quindi è un museo aperto 24 ore su 24. Non c'è personale, si può fruire liberamente a qualsiasi ora della giornata, i visitatori possono camminare in questo terreno sul greto del torrente per vedere appunto delle opere d'arte. L'altra attività, è finito il tempo? Ok, l'altra attività è quella poi di accogliere gli artisti, quindi praticamente vicino alla chiesa parrocchiale questa casa verrà trasformata per creare un ostello per gli artisti che potranno soggiornare qui. E questo edificio, che era la piccola biblioteca che era in abbandono da tanti anni, ospita 25 volumi del fondo di Martin Krenz, che era il curatore del museo di Lucerna prima, poi a New York e poi alla Casa Rossa di Locarno, e che ha donato tutta la sua biblioteca per appunto poter creare una biblioteca aperta a tutti. Un altro artista è David Tremlett, che è stato chiamato qui a lavorare direttamente sul paese, ha fatto un progetto proprio site specific e ha in qualche modo ridipinto le facciate di 4 chiese, vedete alcune sono anche proprio in arte in alta montagna, con questo trattamento policromo, che poi vedete la gente ha fatto proprio e ha chiesto all'artista di andare anche a dipingere parti delle loro case. Ecco, questa è la casa che è qui in mostra, una casa di legno molto semplice su questo basamento di granito, e questi sono gli interni sempre in legno X-Lam. Queste sono altre case create sempre in questo piccolo paesaggio, e poi queste sono delle cellule di legno realizzate proprio con i legni tolti durante la deforestazione per mettere in luce i resti archeologici, e che sono delle sorte di piccoli rifugi lungo i percorsi, i sentieri, dove appunto le persone possono riposare e fermarsi e ammirare proprio la biodiversità di questo luogo. Ecco, io ho terminato e vi ringrazio.
Now it's the turn of A01, a company, a foundation, with no footprint house project from Best International Houses exhibition.
Hello. It's very nice to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. And I'm going to show a little bit about what we do in Costa Rica. Our office is called A01, and there basically is a commercial entity, which is called A Company, and a nonprofit part, which is called A Foundation. And we are an interdisciplinary office, and we work in urban and rural development, and that is a dialectic that is very important to understand our work. And we are basically working on the implementation of innovative sustainability at different scales. And I want to explain how that works in the context of the No Footprint House. That is the project that we show over here. But first I want to say one of the projects that we did in Costa Rica was in 2010 with the Office for Metropolitan Architecture. We launched a roadmap to carbon neutrality of the entire country. And that was basically a step manual to show how you can decarbonize the different sectors of the Costa Rican economy and downphase carbon emissions from 2010 to 2021, which is now. The plan was widely discussed, and this gentleman here on the left, that is Carlos Alvarado Quesada, the current president of Costa Rica, he finally implemented a plan for decarbonization of Costa Rica, which is now called the National Decarbonization Plan from 2018 to 2050, which is the new benchmark. So the plan basically shows how you can decarbonize, how you can create more renewable energy, and very importantly so, how you can downphase the different sectors that now create the emissions, the carbon emissions in Costa Rica. So one of those sectors, of course, is construction. And I'm an architect by education, but we work with many different disciplines in the office. And the No Footprint House is the kind of architectural expression of this kind of downphasing of carbon emissions, show how you can get there and show how it can make an interesting architecture that minimizes its footprint on the environment. And basically it's a step manual that we created for different kind of material interventions, different kind of typologies that can be created, residential typologies, and we have created this kind of modular design system that we combine with an inner service core. We have created different kind of facade plugs, that is additional furniture pieces that can be put into the double layered facade. And basically with this, we can create these different configurations that I show over here. We have pre-designed typologies that we call the 36, the 81, and the 108. That is basically related to the structural grid size of the project, of the different typologies. And this is the first kind of round of renders that we did when we launched the project. So it's a kind of architecture that opens up to its environment. That's very important for tropical architecture, create this kind of dialogue between inside and outside spaces and fuse the architecture with its surrounding. In order to get there, we have created this kind of facade mechanism which can open up. These were the first sketches. And this was the first prototype of the gate. The gate was kind of one of the more complicated issues to resolve. And all the building is prefabricated in the Central Valley of Costa Rica, from where it is shipped to its target location. This was the building basically when we flat packed it. We put it on a 40-feet trailer. And from there, we sent it to its target location. And this is when it arrived on site the next morning. Basically, in the back of the truck, you see the service core that is put onto the pre-established foundations on site. And from there, the building is basically built around the service. The prototype is being built. That's the NFH 108, which is a 2-bedroom typology. And you see the center service core. What was this? You see the service core here in the center, and then all the spaces are built around the service core. Here's a section of the building which basically shows you the principles of bioclimatic architecture that we used. It is an open construction, tropical architecture, tropical modern architecture, and it is based on what we call the principles of bioclimatic design. So that means you have the service core here as this inner accessory which contains bathrooms, kitchen, laundry area, and then you have a natural ventilation that defines the upper part of the building, the upper section. And here you have a detailed section of the facade. You see the relationship of the vertical structural columns and the inclined outer facade, and how we use this space, this kind of space that opens up between the two layers, to create additional space for furniture pieces, and also simply spaces to be, like an extension of the existing space. So here you see like how the building opens up, it works from the inside out and from the outside in, and that is the typical defining element of the structure. This is the same corner from the other side, from the outside basically. And here on the right side, you see the interior rooms. They are basically protected. We also call them cocoons. And they're basically protected by double layers of glass sliding doors and curtain walls. And in the upper section, you see that like the building is permanently left open for natural ventilation. Those natural ventilation flows can be enhanced by mechanical ventilation. You see here on the right side, the ceiling fans, and that is a very good response to the climate. The social areas are left open entirely. They can be closed in terms of security or avoid animals coming in, obviously. And this is an overview of the building as being built in a place that is called Ojocha. Here's a summary of the components that we used for building this first configuration. And basically, I want to show you a little video that you can see how it is to live inside that structure. So for us, it's really this kind of like opening up to the environment, bringing the nature in and turning the spaces inside out so that you offer this possibility of living to a max with the surrounding nature. And I quickly want to say what's next. Like on the one hand side, we're now reproducing these typologies. We have the pre-designed typologies. So the 36, 81, 108 is what we're currently reproducing in Costa Rica. We're still collecting more experience, and then we think also to export it in other regions in the world. There's certain climate adaptation principles that we can have in order to make the building fit for different climates. Also in Costa Rica, we have like 14 different microclimates. So there's elevations up to 4,000 meters, and it's very important to respond to these different conditions by different layers that we can just in this double layered facade that we develop. So like this, we create a high level of flexibility in terms of size, in terms of affordability, in terms of climate resilience. And we also developed a wood system with a Swiss Costa Rican company called Noveltique. And that is something where we can now also offer the different building systems either as a steel structure or as a laminated teak wood structure, which is basically grown in Costa Rica. And that was part of the life cycle assessment that we did in order to show how we can downphase carbon emissions completely and how we can get a net zero building. The wood house is currently being built on this location on the left, and you see it's this kind of like really also intention to blend to a max between a tropical landscape and create an architecture that stands up to it, stands up to this kind of very strong nature, and at the same time blends in without destroying it. So that's the purpose of the project. If you want to see more about our work, here's our address. And I'll leave you with a Costa Rican greeting, which is called Pura Vida. And that's something you say for hi, bye, how is it going? So it's very nice to be here. Very nice to meet you. Pura Vida.
And now, Mino Kajula Architects with Atelier Alice Trapp from Best International Houses Exhibition.
Hello, hi. First of all, thank you very much to Simona for this invitation. Beautiful, fantastic place. I was born in Lille, but I grew up in Switzerland. My name is Mino Kajula Architects, Lugano, Switzerland. And this is my great team since 2010, a young and dynamic team, and more than 20 architects from different backgrounds. And really lucky because we built more than 35 architecture in 11 years. And this is one of the architecture I'm presenting today. He's the only, actually. And is the winner of 7 international awards. And is thanks to Alice, that it's my friend now. She's a great artist, but she's more a great person because she lives, normally there is the music, I'm sorry, that doesn't work, but no problem, just imagine it. And there is this fantastic person that helps in every way possible the people living for, she lives for 6 months in Ecuador and there are 6 months in Switzerland. She's a healthy person and she helps these poor guys in every way possible. And she creates like a hyper-realistic sculpture thanks to these strong bond relationships that she makes with these people. And I love the way Alice model with her hands the matter. And also there is another beautiful experience between the thing that the artist works on their subjects and the architects make people live inside what they create. And there is these beautiful relationships between the artists, the architects, and also the site. The site of this building is in Switzerland, in the southern part, in Origlio. And there is like a Remember Me remember me this place, the place where the Greece used to build the theaters. And normally the theater were built into promontory, reaching through fantastic views to the sea. We don't have the sea in Switzerland, but we have beautiful mountains. But the point is that conception with the point to create a building that helps Alice as a point of observation and contemplation before doing her art. And if you see the site, now you can really see this place that is like a small depression going down. And Alice asked us to renew or demolish or do something on an existing villa. And what we did is to read the curvature and the curve line, and we lift up two curves line, and we put inside, we cut out the architecture into it to try to find the way, and I think we got it, to do not only architecture, but at the same time also landscaping. And what we did is to put an iconic feature that is an icon, that normally it's a space, a natural space, and it's a cenote. Also, thanks to the idea of like have an homage to the South American origin of Alice Trap. And we put this space in the core of the project. And this is both a space for working and a house. And the point is that we would like Alice to like staying in a centrifugal force that brings her into the nature when she lives in the house, in the daily living. But when she wants to stay with herself and thinking about her heart, it's like a centripetal force that brings her into the belly of Mother Earth. And you can see in plan that everything rotates around the cenote, and not only in plan, but also in section. Here in section is maybe better to understand it. And you can see the spaces and now hypogeo emptiness. And I grew up as a bricklayer because I started my career in a construction site when I was 16. And I did a diploma. It's a degree in Switzerland. You can do a degree in bricklayer from the 16 to 19. And then after I did my university, then like a Polytechnic in Lugano, then the Academy of Mendrisio, and then the New York City, the Columbia University. But at the end, I'm a craftsman. I'm a builder. And the most important thing is to play with these guys every day, because the only way to translate this passion and these shapes is staying there together with them, because you can use all the software you want. Because here we used Rhino, a bit of advertisement, sorry, to to translate our idea into projects. But then what we did really was to cut out 200 sections. We put this section together. We cross them together, this section. We create more than 2,000 dots. This dot got elevated to the sky. And we really create the frameworks like ships made of wood. And then we pour the concrete inside. I can barely hear the sound. Maybe you can pump the volume if you want. Thanks a lot. And this is the architecture finally. So it's really integrated into the landscaping. You can even see the neighbor building that it's part of the composition. This is the roof made of coppi piemontesi of our neighbor. And a big favor was done not only to Alice, but also to the neighbor, because when we demolished the existing villa, we opened the view to this valley. And this valley is going down and then up again. It's like in the Greece theater, because you imagine the Greece theater is like a known architecture, because they built the gradonate around the site. And our idea is just to go around the site and then going down this slope and then up again. So we don't have the sea, but we have this beautiful mountain. And this is the church of Mario Bota, actually. This is the Monte Tamaro. And we put inside a biopool, cleansed by the plants. It's like an idea to create a microclimate also in the hot summer, and using also and only friendly material and heating system that can help us to be as much as possible sustainable. And it's like a body entered the site made of concrete and green and jasmine that is like little by little, the year by year, going up to the architecture. And how you can see, the idea is not only to create an architecture, but also is like a metaphor between the interior design, the landscaping. There is never a limit. The views are always open to inside and vice versa outside. And another point was the lightness of the spaces, because she lives there. So we created double light space where the light can come in and she can really enjoy the space. And then the cenote. The cenote is earthly depression naturally created by ancestral tectonic movement in which plunge air, light, plants, greenery, and water. And this is our interpretation of the cenote. This is a place where Alice can lie down into the water. She can have like a natural massage, because we put it like small stones, rounded small stones, river stones in black, that she can, like in 15 centimeter of water, like covering her face and looking up to the sky, looking at the clouds movement, the bird twittering, the movement of the jasmine that brings all the perfume, natural perfume into the space. It's like a search of the sublime in a everyday, and is the starting point for her, putting the fourth dimension, that is time, like a sundial that detected the various solar declination before, after, and during one works of art. Thank you really much.
Now let's have a quick coffee break so you can stretch your legs, and see you in 15 minutes here. See you later. Lady- Ladies and gentlemen, aspetta, fammi parlare. Hello? Hello? E non parlo? Hello? Non mi vuole far parlare il tuo amico. Ladies and gentlemen, please turn back to your seats so we can continue the program of the day. I now call on stage Atoma with House Change Project from Best International Houses Exhibition.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Casa Platform for inviting us and for this big opportunity to be here. And also Cesare and Umberto, my partners in Atoma, and all the guys and the girls that work with us that are the very pulsing heart. So today we speak about this house that is in the Western Alps in Italy, in Piedmont, and we call it a retreat among the peaks. And basically, this house, this image speaks by itself. It's the essence of the house. The house is made by stone, the rocks of the mountain, and the trees. A guy one day came, a very young guy, the client, and seeing this image that I showed you before, he said, I'm dreaming of something. I'm dreaming of living into this old barn. And so since the first meetings with him, we were sketching and thinking how to give the possibility to a dreamer to dream. And so we were starting bringing the rocks into the house, thinking how to transform an existing building that it was not a dwelling into a warm dwelling. And so bringing inside wood, bringing inside new spaces. And we went together walking around and seeing this beautiful landscape that is around there. And he felt completely in love. And when he saw this village that is just next to the house, he said, I want to be part of this landscape. And so everything started, and we started by analyzing the existing building that as it was before on the left. You can see that it was very empty, nothing, just space for animals and for the grass and stuff. And so we were starting in this very small and tiny cabin, we can say, to put all the functions, and we had the opportunity by moving volumes inside to create an extension. This, it was actually the building inside with the rocks and with the beautiness of this, and the hand of the man next to the nature. And so we wanted to keep something of that. But of course, the mountain is the place of compromise, and we couldn't reuse completely the building. It was made of stones, only stones, dry walls. So some part we could reuse it and take it, and basically we had a lot of intervention on some other side. And so there was a mandatory regulation in the valley that it was very strict on how reuse the material, and it was a little bit hard at the beginning. So we were analyzing a very light extension of the house to create an entrance and a living room that finally it changed a little bit the proportion and the materials. So following the restrictions outside, we were using the stones even for the extension. And here you see again the essence: stones, wood, and trees and rocks. And by using this concept, we had the possibility to change a little bit the spirit inside and the approach. And so we use the concept of the box in a box, even for thermal insulation requirements, and of course seismic requirements. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time in the plans, but you see that there is such a complexity inside to make all the function together. The new extension is the entrance and a small living room, and the idea is that we related all the openings to see the peaks, to see the mountains, to see the valley, and then all in next to the rock, all the functions that needed less light, like services and toilet. And this guy is Alberto. This is a master. Is following us now in another project in the mountains, and he took the hard work of dismantling all the house and then building up again, reusing all the stones. So he was an artisan with heart, and of course we used a lot of concrete, and there was the seismic requirements were very tough. So we had to transform a lot the building. And but in parallel, there was a construction technical difficulties, but in mind we had always something very clean, something very soft for the interior. And this is the final result of the house, how it looks outside, reusing the pitched roof in stones, reused the old techniques. It was required, and it was something important for us, something interesting. So by going down, we found a very large arch in the existing building. So we decided to reuse it to see the ancient well, and we reconstructed by reusing the old technique of the stones. And this is as it looks now. So the function, we changed the project when we saw the arch, and we decided to put, with the client, of course, to put the master bedroom downstairs. You will see later. And by climbing up on the last floor, the one we moved a little bit with the volumes, we had the possibility to put a little playful room for the kids. Even if it was not completely allowed, we can say this is a laundry for, but we played a little bit with this game. And again, tympanum, archetypic openings of the typical stone buildings there. And so we tried to reuse all the techniques, in this case by putting a glazed tympanum. And so this is the comparison of how it was before, and then how we got this tympanum inside, trying to bring natural light in, because all the windows are quite small, and it was quite important to bring natural light in. And here in the section, you see the complexity of the levels, the service area next to the rocks with the bathroom, and a little bit the room that with the windows looks downstairs. So getting inside, this is the entrance with the living room, And you can see that inside is completely different. It's warmth with natural birch plywood and materials that allow you to have this contrast. We played with the contrast. We found it quite interesting. And this, of course, is where the client every morning wake up and look over through the valley and with the little building of the well outside. This is a detail. And in the going up, the dining room is into the double space. So during the day hours, we try to bring all the natural light in, and we have different views on the valley. Going up, this is the very tiny room for the kids, and the kids has this window that receive the light again from the tympanum in the game of moving volumes, and they look downstairs. Of course, there is a glass; they cannot fall, but they look down to the parents, and they're quite happy with that feeling of playfulness in the house. So, compromise, we said. So the compromise is, of course, using as much as we could the existing rocks and stones, and this is what we did. For example, we had all this in the shower, in the bathroom, and basically that's it. So this is the final view of the house. I spent one last word of 2 seconds. This is atoma. Atoma is a Greek word that means people, and we're quite happy with that. It's indivisible, as it means atoms, and we're very proud of this. Now the people grow a little bit. This is our office where we practice a lot with materials, with the models and stuff. This is one of our incredible guys, and this is Atoma. Thank you very much.
And now here we go with Mold Architects with Uncaved House project from Best International Houses exhibition.
Okay. Hello from me also. I'm Miliana Kerestegi. I am the founder of Mold Architects. We come from Greece. And we would like to thank you for including our project in this amazing exhibition and inviting us here. So, Uncaved Residence is a project that we designed, but also managed its construction. We moved in the island for 2 years, So I can say that I'm really attached with this project and very proud for the outcome of it. I will try to be brief and explain you the most important things. So Encaved is located on Serifos Island in Cyclades on Rocky Cove, just above the sea level. The design was the outcome of a very thorough research of the suburban landscape. We tried to avoid any possibility of just reproducing the stereotype of the traditional Cycladic architecture that we mainly meet in the settlements. And on the contrary, we aimed at a more contemporary and daring architecture that declares its presence, but on the same time, it is an organic part of this landscape. We used and embraced the Cycladic concept in our design. One of them, one of the most important concepts was the protection of the inhabitants from the strong winds in the area. Like that, we designed also this project as a shelter. It is located on a plot of an amazing view, but it's openly exposed to very strong winds. And this led us to the design of, to the decision of drilling the slope instead of arranging the spaces on the ground level. Also, the Bioclimatic approach of the design finds its roots in the traditional Cycladic architecture with their planted roofs. With our techniques of passive and active techniques, we minimize the energy needs of the house. Another key concept of the design was the use of local materials, such as stone that we directly excavated from the plot, but also metal, which we used as a clear reference to Serifos's very rich mining history. The sequence of the spaces creates a narration full of emotions and full of surprises for the inhabitants. In the beginning, when you approach the house from above, the only thing you can see is this linear stone wall parallel to the line of the horizon. And then the guest dives into the earth through this emblematic staircase, and gradually the spaces of the residence and the inner patios are revealed. And in the end of the route comes this emotional explosion when you finally witness the breathtaking view and of the Cyclades and the neighboring islands. We filtered the light through perforated and reflected surfaces, which intensifies furthermore the emotions and constantly changes throughout the day. From a very natural feeling of the daylight, it transforms into a more seductive, let's say, environment. So the use of raw materials, such as stone, exposed concrete, or wood, intensify the feeling that we are inside a natural cavity. And the roughness of the materials is combined with an elegance in the handling of the details, creating a simple yet warm space. A few words about our practice. We're a very small practice from Greece, 7 architects. We undertake also a very small amount of a number of projects in order to be able to maintain our focus and our absolute engagement with them. For this same reason, as I told you before, we're trying also to take on the construction management of our projects and be there while they're built. Our approach integrates research, architecture, landscape, advanced computational design, parametric design, interior design, visual arts, and construction management. We are our work focuses on a constant effort to weave traditional concepts into a modern vocabulary. Our design principles involve the reinvention of traditional typologies, the merging of the structure into their environment, the modulation of light, of course, the promotion of craftsmanship, and the use of new technologies, and all those in order to create a fresh, but above all, humane architecture. I selected for this short time to briefly present you with 3 of our projects. Of our first one, built in 2014, and 2 of our latest ones. So the first project is a residence on Sheriff's Island, which was designed as a composite terrace on a steep slope. In Cyclades, the landscape is dominated by series of stone walls called pezoules, whose purpose was to maintain the soil and convert those barren lands into cultivated areas. This element of the stone walling here is transformed into our main tool of the composition, which defines the enclosed spaces and the courtyards, gives protections from the wind, and of course frames the views. And as a result, we can say that the landscape has maintained its unique morphology, and the house naturally follows the flow of the slope. The second project is Centro Otici, is completed very recently, is a renovation of an optical store in the center of Athens. Here, the idea was to remove all the display and infrastructural elements and use the product itself as a structural element whose repetition would create architectural space. We produced a metal curtain which wraps the facade and one of the walls of the store and creates a multifunctional skin, which is ideal to display this heterogeneous product with a large degree of freedom. Then we wrapped the mezzanine with the mirrors, large mirrors, and this gave an endless repetition of the grid and maximized this very small size of the place. So here, the absence of color and the total absence of any shadows and the repetitive patterns creates an almost unrealistic environment and symbolic, which only purpose is to focus and to highlight this exuberant product that we showcase. And the third project is a house on Paros Island, which is now under construction. This house was designed on a plot next to a traditional shipyard. And on the island of Paros, ancient shipyards called Neosiki were found scattered all around the island. Those were artificial slots on the coastal rocks, and they served the loading of the boats with marble. And in our design, the basic idea was a clear reference to this very long naval tradition of the island. The composition is based in a very simple idea. The house is placed inside an elongated pit created by 2 retaining walls, and then water rushes into this pit as it once did in the ancient shipyards. And it's dominant for the communal spaces of the house. And from the exterior, the building is assimilated into the landscape, and it imitates a fence or, let's say, a remnant of a building. To sum up, I can say that our projects are based in maybe in very different, of course, concepts, but there is a strong affinity amongst them. And this affinity lies, of course, in the careful reading of the context of each project. It lies in the clarity of the idea, and it lies in the persistently asked question, why, which precedes every line that we try to design. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for inviting us. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.
And now here we go with EXCO, with House GM Project from Best International Houses Exhibition.
Hello, we are ETSCO. This is Christian Gana, and I am Raimundo Noguera, and we are from ETSCO. We came from Chile, as you can see. We traveled a really long distance to be here presenting our project, House GM. Unfortunately, our English is not really well, so we decided to speak in our native language, Spanish. I'm really sorry, guys.
We are very sorry.
We are going to try to speak very slow. We can see, so you can hear us. Here we go. Bueno, siguiendo con eso, quiero dar las gracias a Simona. Estamos muy contentos por estar acá. Para nosotros es una experiencia absolutamente nueva que no habíamos tenido nunca antes, así que estamos muy felices por eso. Como pregunta inicial nos decimos cuál es el sentido de por qué queremos estar aquí y mostrar nuestra visión del nuevo mundo que vivimos. Es lo que trataremos de hacer en estos breves minutos. Ambos somos socios de un estudio de arquitectura y construcción llamado ETSCO. Llevamos 10 años de existencia en los que hacemos arquitectura en función de nuestro tiempo, vocación del lugar y la tecnología que tenemos a nuestro alcance. Uno de los puntos esenciales y condicionantes de Latinoamérica es the economy reality. ¿A qué me refiero con esto? A las limitaciones y realidades económicas que tenemos. Los presupuestos de las personas muchas veces son muy acotados y no existe el dinero para hacer proyectos de alto costo. Y esto conlleva a replantearlos aprovechando todos los recursos al máximo. Junto con lo anterior, existen limitaciones tales como la existencia de materiales para construir, y así también pueden llegar a ser poco viables desde otros ámbitos, difícil llegar a ellos. Como conclusión de estos puntos, lo que quiero decir, si no llegamos a aterrizar estas condiciones que terminan siendo absolutamente radicales, el proyecto no logra llegar a puerto y finalmente no se ejecuta. Sin embargo, nosotros para cada proyecto salimos a buscar darle el valor, add value. Acá lo que queremos enfatizar y lo que buscamos en cada proyecto es en darle valor a las tradiciones y a las costumbres locales. En nuestro país, al ser tan extenso, de norte a sur, existen diferentes costumbres y tradiciones. ¿A qué me refiero con esto? Esto también va acompañado de una gran diversidad geográfica y climática, teniendo desierto, montañas, bosques, mar, lagos, ríos, etc. Estos entornos, en general, hacen que la forma de vida cambie radicalmente y nos tengamos que adecuar a esos cambios. Es por esto que nuestros proyectos los planteamos de la manera más óptima para cada lugar. Learning. A través de nuestra historia hemos ejecutado proyectos de diversas índoles, como es el caso, hemos hecho gasolineras, hemos hecho edificios, casas, trabajado con retail, etc. Por lo que existe un gran bagaje ya a esta altura de nuestra carrera y a su vez un aprendizaje en todas estas distintas áreas que cada una va aportando lo suyo. ¿Qué quiero decir con esto? Que nuestra historia es nuestro valor finalmente. Todas estas cosas que vamos rescatando. Le hemos dedicado el énfasis adecuado a cada proyecto, tratando de trabajar con los mínimos elementos posibles en cada obra, sin dejar el valor y la esencia de cada proyecto. Y tratando de manejar siempre el concepto de la calidad en todos los proyectos.
En este contexto aparece la casa GM, House GM. El encargo de esta casa fue una familia que nos encargó una casa de 100 metros cuadrados. Esta casa debía estar relacionada al lugar, un contexto muy lluvioso en el sur de Chile, tanta lluvia que con cifras similares o mayores a Londres, para que nos hagamos una idea del contexto, y que también tenía una particularidad que su presupuesto no podía exceder los $50.000. Ante lo cual nosotros lo que hicimos fue salir a buscar la identidad de la zona como metodología que ocupamos constantemente y en la cual encontramos una serie de edificaciones que a nosotros nos sirvieron para inspirarnos. Y la primera son estos palafitos, los que se ven allá en la esquina, que son construcciones muy simples, muy básicas sobre pilotes en el mar y que dan una imagen de identidad muy propia de la zona. Y lo segundo son iglesias que son patrimonio universal de la UNESCO, y esas iglesias destacan por su verticalidad y por su esencia interior de cómo son más acogedoras, etcétera, y el uso de la madera que tienen. Por otro lado también están los galpones de la zona, the farms, que a nosotros nos ayudaron mucho para ver cómo se escalaba en el paisaje, en un paisaje rural, y cómo solucionaban también el tema de las aguas en este contexto, que era muy difícil. Es por eso que nosotros tratamos de poner los menos elementos posibles, tratar de, inspirándonos en estos palafitos, una estructura simple, con una envolvente de los galpones, con una volumetría muy simple, que se resuelva bien el tema de las aguas y que tenga en su interior una calidez como la iglesia. Así también teníamos la particularidad de que teníamos que elegir todos los materiales a partir del comercio local, ya que por logística y distancia entre Santiago, las capitales regionales, no había mucha posibilidad de elegir materiales. Es por eso, y después tuvimos el tema de la interpretación de la familia, de la esencia familiar, de la identidad de ellos, y que quiero permitirme un minutito para citar un texto que nos enviaron por WhatsApp en el minuto que ellos supieron que nosotros veníamos para acá, la dueña de casa. Se los voy a leer a continuación. Without knowing and being a complete ignorance on the element of the architecture, I believe it's put together like art that goes beyond the aesthetic and the use of materials and spaces. Personally, and from the outside, life and living the house became an experience. During the first days, I was moved and excited to being able to connect through the spaces with childhood emotions that made me wish for my history. Going through the halls, sitting on the living room, and observe bring me to my emotional memories, moments that I didn't know that I had inside. GM House reflects the essential values of my family that we want to be: simplicity, clarity, openness, and the encounter. GM House became our identity as a family, and that always will be a privilege. So, volviendo al español, perdón. Sí nos convencimos después de estos proyectos de que nosotros estamos creando realidad, una realidad asequible, con materiales de la zona, con proyectos acotados, con las mismas complejidades que todos nosotros tenemos como arquitectos, pero resolviéndonos con una vuelta y generando calidad en cada uno de los proyectos. De hecho, nosotros creemos que debemos ejercer y ver el futuro como una democratización de la arquitectura, que no sea solamente la arquitectura para unos pocos, sino que sea de acceso universal, y de que muchas veces la gente, por tradición, por arquitectura vernacular, tiene malas construcciones o de dudosa calidad, siendo que hoy día, con la herramienta y la tecnología que tenemos, podemos llegar a ser un producto de mucha mejor calidad. Es por eso nosotros que incluso creemos que debiésemos hacer un proyecto de algún banco en línea de generación de proyectos donde cada uno pudiese donar proyectos que muchas veces no van a ser construidos, pero sí le damos una oportunidad al gran porcentaje de la gente para que pueda llegar con $50.000 o con $100.000 a tener una vivienda digna y para siempre. Es por eso que House GM es una muestra de este ejercicio que nosotros estamos haciendo y que creemos que va a ser para el futuro. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Now, please welcome on stage Aziza, Atelier C Architecture, with House in Pontillac project from Best International Houses exhibition.
Hello, everybody. Thanks all. I'm Antoine Ragono. We are A6A from Bordeaux. We are 3 associates, and we will present houses and more especially families project. There is like 4 or 5 houses we have built. Then Roberto.
Hello, everybody. So what we try to do in this expose is to talk about our family houses production and 4 or 3 kind of approach that we have been developing in the studio. So we will talk about landscape and context. In this case, in this house situated in Lacanau, which is a little city close to the sea in the south of France. We were located between some pines like this. The work was to consisted in build an extension of a house really in the middle of the pines. Then this kind of intervention was also in the Pontiac house, which already exposed here in the exhibition, and we were also talking about the landscape and how to come between the trees, how the trees mark their shadows on the architecture.
Yeah, and so this is another house near Bordeaux also. We work a lot in southwest of France. It's Pessac, and it's we call it a twin house because it's 2 houses made like in the similar plan. And we try to work with very simple lines and plan in something that is very open to the landscape, even if sometimes the neighborhood is more like very traditional. We try in our architecture to have something more abstract and going in the very like simple architecture, and also something that is not very expensive. This one is very particular because it's a house that we can move, and it's a self-sufficient house. It made its own energy, it recycled the water, it has a fire inside. And so this house is like it squared the landscape. We can move it, we have already moved it a few times. And this one it was in south of France, and it went to the middle of France last week. It's called HAVA, H-A-V-A. Also, another house we call modular house in Talent, and near Bordeaux. And it was the clients order us to like to make a house with 4 apartments inside, the co-living. And it's we are still in this kind of city, very traditional, old, but it's not a lot of qualities, and we try to make something clear here. Always open with a lot of outside spaces, and in between, working between the public space and how we enter in the house, the parcours, maybe.
Another kind of work that we are developing in the studio is about the matter and the light, how the architecture of these family houses work with these two materials. So here we work with so raw materials like the wood instead, and inox at the chimney. Here in the house of in Pontiac, we work with concrete and coated white coat. Also in Pessac. So the way is always trying to use few materials, and even if the budget is not really high, try to show them as they are. Also for Eva, where we work with burned wood. And here in Talence, with a modular house, we were working with the code and the wood of the terrace.
And then we find it in those works. We always work in the opening and the views to have like very big frames. We think like in our architecture is kind of massive, but with big holes, no. And it's always this relation to find something between no inside outside, as I said before, but we try to work in how we open a window, a door. Is it from inside? Can we the move we do with our hands? And so here it's everything go from outside. It's from the top to the ceiling. And again, how we work in sliding windows. Sometimes it's we really like this game of the windows, no? And so, yeah, here we see the twin houses, and it's not exactly the same, but it's like very open with a through view. And Eva, which is like here, it's very nice because it's only 20 square meters. So it's almost this we have here. And the windows, it's 4 meters, more than 4 meters, and it go inside the walls. And so when you open, you don't really know if where you are, if it's inside or outside. And all the terrace is the same size of the main place. And it's very strange feeling and very nice also. And here, so the view. It's more like the context is more important than the house. So yeah, these two facades, it's interesting because it's from the street. We have only one level. And in Bordeaux, a lot of houses, the garden is one level down. And so from the garden, it's kind of very small building. And we can see like the 3 different bedrooms, which are like most kind of apartments where you can rent only one with everything inside and you share only the kitchen.
And another kind of subject we have 2 minutes to finish is about the drawing and the plans and how we imagine all these kind of spaces. So what we work in all the houses is main spaces who are functional, because in the other side you have the spaces like here in the black frame, who deserve all the main spaces. Here in Pontaillac, we did the same with the main spaces below of the plan, with the terrace and all the functional spaces in the like the entrance and the access to the garage and the toilets, etc. in the other side. Pessac is the same way. With this section, we show that the in-between spaces also are like one of the questions that we try to answer always. In Eva, it was like the exercise of all the houses in a really tiny space, and that's what Michel was explaining before. And this house, who is like one level in the street facade, and 3 levels in the garden part.
So yeah, I think, well, it repeats a bit, but it's always this relation we like, you know, inside, outside, the material from the site, the context, working with people, very like craftsman, and do a lot of details. We like small details in architecture and working with these few materials. We always find it. And so it was interesting to do this work to present you these 5 houses, because for us it's like introspection of the work on the houses we do. And we have finished. So thank you very much. Let me see. Alexander. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I now call on stage M2 Atelier with Sheraton Mestre Project from Best Italian Interior Design Exhibition.
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, we wanted to thank you, Simona, and the whole team of Platform for their for an invitation to be part of this amazing exhibition and amazing environment, and of course for all this like support that you give us and the patience you have. And then, so we are here to present today our project that we are very, and we are happy actually to present a project that is actually from this region. And so before going to that step, we will introduce ourselves.
Okay, yes, we will improvise. So first of all, we're based in Milan. We are 25 architects. Mariana and myself are the founders, and we work internationally. Today, yes, we only focus on one project, but of course, you know, we have a lot of stuff going on. We were a little late. Sorry, Simona. But we can do our.
So let's say that we are two like architects, like two partners of the studio that actually became, that was actually a merging of two studios of more than 20 years of experience in a different field. We work like in architecture and interior design. We do like a lot of residential projects. We do, as you see, like hospitality, boat design, and also other like product design. So like.
Yes, today the Hotel 4 Points of Sheraton, it's like Mariana said, it's very interesting because it's local, and this was a competition. So our like client, you know, founded this managing company called the D Hotels that, as a purpose, has to regenerate underperforming hotels and having design and beauty at the core of the values for the client experience. So this was our old hotel, and so we were like facing not only like problems of how to regenerate an existing structure, but also how to be in a certain budget. As we all know, as architects, is quite often to go over budget and over time. This was actually a very good example. We went under budget and under time. So maybe the first time.
We were within everything. So as you can see, like our role was very clear that we had to actually make of a hotel that was with no like identity, something like an atmosphere of like youthful, playful atmosphere for clients that are like 4-star hotel, as you can imagine. So starting from the entrance that you can see, we had like this one piece of art. Is it like a pin art panel that is a huge dimensions, that is actually very very fun place where people like to stay and do their photos for Instagram.
Yes, it's an Instagram point. So that you know, Mestre, for who doesn't know where Mestre is, 10 minutes away from here. So like location-wise, it's very good for, of course, like this is a 4-star hotel, so very very affordable. It's 10 minutes from here, so with all the space you want instead of being cramped into the Venice little. But of course, it has also a conference center. It's 168 rooms, 2 restaurants, a gym, a spa, swimming pool. So that's the whole thing. Maybe it's like a microcosm that is very introversive, because Mestre is not as beautiful as Venice, but of course has everything that a lot of hotels in Venice do not have, meaning space, privacy, and calm also. And so we tried, and also the investment was mainly in the main areas. So our client, of course, believes that it's very important to have the main areas very pumped up, let's say, or like give the right message, not too high, not too low, but really like family oriented or business oriented. This is for everybody, of course. But so we were facing also, you see the material now scrolling on they're all very simple materials. We have like concrete resin and ceramic.
Very like a feeling home atmosphere, not to feel like you are in a hotel is good, but it's like to give it a little like a tweak more into that. So like to have the area. So like what we are seeing here is like a lobby that is like developing all the left wing of the hotel. So where we have a lobby and restaurant. Of course, you can see here that we played a lot with the different materials that we had, like from the exterior of the building that was not touched. This exterior is like a corten steel. So the colors of the corten steel like brought us actually to the idea to have this copper that is actually floating bit like inside the interior. We have this like expanded metal mesh that is mixing with the warmer material, something of like it is back painted glass that is a little bit reflective to like a warmer wood, or this huge tiles that were actually giving this material.
Yes, there are also some reference, of course, to the territory. So earth and sea, of course, are that here in Venice you have this like light blues and gray bluish. You have this like sunset on the lagoon that are orange. So we try to interpret, of course, in a modern and more like in a lighter way, also this mood. So it's in order to have this reference, of course, with the territory around us.
Yes, the colors are like, you see the colors here are a little stronger.
Yeah, sometimes stronger.
Yes, like, so we have this kind of like have wood, we have this blue to green color, and then this area is actually facing this outdoor space that we wanted to create like a urban garden that is actually.
Oh, no, this is funny. Before, this was a parking. So there was no garden. This is a very like not really interesting building when you go there. So the idea was trying to create interest where there was no interest. That's many times is a very hard task to achieve. So this is a building. So this was like a parking, open air. So of course we closed the area. We create kind of a courtyard, and we create inside this. It's a beautiful garden actually, because it's very introversive and looks inside itself, and this.
Yes, and then within a hotel, of course, like with a beautiful restaurant, but also a great bar where you can have like amazing drinks, because the point bar is actually accessible also from outdoors. So like it's a, as you can see, like there is the colors are actually coming in and out, like from this green to like there are some details that you can see. So all this restaurant part is connected to the outdoor space. As we said, the point bar is actually has also access from outdoor. And so like we have these architectural elements that are giving light and that are actually creating this urban garden, as we said before, but also we have like a lot of now this, we just arrived from there. It's like, it's a jungle. It's like a really nice place to stay.
Yes, and also you've seen in the photographs, the mix of material between industrial, natural, or artificial, of course. So we like to, in all our projects, we do incredible research on materials and lighting. But especially in this project, you've seen all these kind of meshes. Those are like metal mesh, striated, industrial, very economic. But we just like power coated them and framed them and put them together like with the back painted glass or like fabric. So to give another reading. This is the lobby.
The part of the lobby with this like a floating sofa. These are some part of details that you have seen, and. Then what we worked as well on the ground floors, like where you can find this, let's say the big space. It's like -1 where you can find apart from whatever, like services, a huge banquet room and conference rooms. And so like it was also a bit this part of job that was part of also
Yes,
like
the design actually started with the back of house areas, because of as we know, operations as important as the outlook actually are even more important. So we based on our planning, we completely revisited the whole building, and as we know, service is number one priority in this kind of hotels. So and also flexibility. So the same, the banquet room for like a congress then becomes, of course, like an auditorium. We used acoustical panels, and also all those curtains colored, multicolored, like blue. They actually are for acoustic, and they hide all the monitors. I mean, there is a lot of like easy solutions for giving flexibility, but within a budget. And this was, the
so
request.
we're very proud of it. So okay, this is like let's say the hotel is like with the 168 rooms, like in 8 suites on 8 floors, and this is the 9th floor where that is actually dedicated to wellness, fitness, and also rooftop with the pool that is in construction now. So all this area, as you can see, is like more, of course, dedicated to relax. Of course, we continue here with the same materials that you see at the downflow on the floors below, from like massage rooms to all the spa, sauna, and everything that is concerning sauna. This is the big steel pool. This is a part of the gym, and I think that's it. And we were precise.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now it's the turn of Claudio Pironi and partners with Casa Modena project from Best Italian Interior Design Exhibition.
Pronto? Buonasera a tutti, grazie per essere qui ad ascoltarmi. In primo luogo un grazie molto forte a Simona Finessi e a tutto lo staff di Platform per aver permesso a me di essere qui a parlare di questo progetto. Quello che voglio fare oggi è parlarvi della storia che sta dietro questo progetto. Poi verso la fine, tra un'oretta circa, parleremo anche del progetto in sé. La parte più importante di questo progetto, la storia più interessante, nasce dal momento in cui abbiamo fatto le prime riunioni con la committenza, che ci ha chiesto di fare un appartamento a Modena in un palazzo ottocentesco in pieno centro storico. E in una pausa delle nostre conversazioni mi è venuto in mente una storia che si riferisce ai primi anni dell'università. Parliamo proprio dagli inizi, la fine degli anni 70, in cui ero insoddisfatto dei modelli che ci presentavano da seguire ed ero alla ricerca di qualcosa che mi entusiasmasse. Un giorno a caso, nella biblioteca di un architetto e padre di un compagno di università, trovo un libro di Jean-Michel Franck. E lo guardo con l'intensità e la curiosità di un giovane aspirante architetto che non aveva ancora trovato la sua strada. Dopo 37 anni di professione non credo di averla ancora trovata, però abbiamo fatto tanti lavori nel frattempo. La storia di Jean-Michel Franck è molto interessante e ci porta ancora più indietro, nel 1860, quando nasce in Bolivia una donna che si chiama Eugenia Errázuriz. È un personaggio molto particolare, del quale possiamo leggere la vita in un libro straordinario che si chiama The Style Makers, scritto da Mo Amelia Teitelbaum. Lo consiglio a tutti perché è un libro interessantissimo su quello che è successo tra gli anni 20 e 30 in Europa. Eugenia frequentava personaggi come Cecil Beaton, Pablo Picasso, John Sargent, Stravinsky, Diaghilev e tantissimi artisti e intellettuali dell'epoca, tra i quali anche Jean-Michel Franck. E tra le loro conversazioni, Eugenia mostrò a Franck un libro di appunti dove c'erano due cose molto interessanti per Franck. La prima era non dimenticare mai le linee pulite e le proporzioni dei mobili di fine Ottocento. E la seconda diceva ricordati sempre che eleganza vuole dire eliminazione. E questi due consigli sono stati di vitale importanza per il futuro di Franck. Qui alcuni esempi di questo straordinario designer. Adesso passiamo questa è la posizione dell'appartamento di cui voglio parlare. Si trova proprio nel centro storico di Modena, sul viale Martire della Libertà, di fronte al Teatro Storchi, su un boulevard. Queste sono delle immagini esterne del palazzo, che è un palazzo di fine Ottocento, vincolato. Ecco, qui possiamo vedere lo stato di fatto prima dell'intervento, dove potete vedere i 4 ambienti principali dove si trovano le volte a vela, una struttura molto interessante, molto elegante. Questo era, diciamo, il primo intervento. Qui la nostra cliente ci ha chiesto di fare un progetto dove gli spazi diventassero fluidi, dove ci fosse una grande profondità della luce, ed è questo quello che abbiamo fatto. Abbiamo creato delle aperture più grandi per avere una linea prospettica a unire tutti questi ambienti che precedentemente erano ambienti uniti da aperture molto basse. La seconda cosa che abbiamo fatto è quella di aprire, contro il parere di alcune autorità, tutte le piccole aperture originali della casa erano anche queste. Noi abbiamo creato delle nuove aperture di altezza circa 3 metri per consentire l'ingresso della luce, soprattutto in profondità. Questi alcuni dettagli costruttivi molto complessi con i quali abbiamo lavorato. Possiamo andare avanti velocemente su questi, poi vi spiegherò. Una delle difficoltà più grandi che abbiamo trovato nella realizzazione del progetto sono state le limitazioni tecniche, perché per poter aprire tutti questi vani tra i vari spazi della casa è stato necessario un pesante intervento da un punto di vista strutturale, e quindi la necessità di discutere in modo molto profondo con gli ingegneri quali erano gli interventi migliori da fare. La volta a vela, una struttura bellissima, straordinaria, ma che si comporta malissimo nei confronti dei movimenti sismici che a Modena sono di casa, e quindi sono stati pesantemente rinforzati. Qui siamo già in una fase avanzata della lavorazione. Ed ecco che arriviamo al progetto. Questa immagine che trovate sulla vostra destra è quello che si vede appena si entra in casa. Lo spazio che si trova direttamente a destra è la sala da pranzo, che ha una finestra che si affaccia sul Martiri della Libertà. A sinistra si va in cucina con la porta che vedete. Questo qui è un zoom in sulla sala da pranzo, dove potete vedere i materiali. È stato usato del ceppo di poltranio per rivestire tutte le pareti, perché anche questa era un'esigenza della committenza, vale a dire avere su tutte le superfici dei materiali senza manutenzione. E quindi abbiamo rivestito ogni superficie della casa nella zona giorno, in modo tale che non ci fosse alcun tipo di manutenzione nel tempo. La sala da pranzo è stata interamente rivestita con la boiserie de Tech del Burma, e anche il parquet è stato realizzato con lo stesso tipo di legno, mentre che potete vedere una volta a vela con degli affreschi parzialmente recuperati e un lampadario che si chiama Solo e forma parte di una collezione di lampadari in cristallo di Murano che sto sviluppando assieme a una fornace muranese, che fa molto al caso visto che stiamo a Venezia. Questo è il soggiorno della casa. Anche qui potete vedere un camino in bianco di Carrara arabescato, recuperato, e i rivestimenti in ceppo di poltranio. Potete vedere anche la sala da pranzo e in fondo la cucina. Come vedete, il legno che è stato utilizzato è sempre esattamente lo stesso in tutti gli ambienti. Qui nella immagine di destra possiamo vedere dall'area biblioteca la sequenza di aperture e l'impostazione della luce che arriva profondamente in tutti gli ambienti. La libreria ovviamente e anche la boiserie che vedete sulla destra sono state tutte quante realizzate in Tech del Burma. Nell'immagine di sinistra potete vedere la prospettiva contraria, dove si vede anche un daybed che si chiama CP58 e che è stato disegnato sempre dal nostro studio. Questa è la biblioteca, potete vedere anche qui la boiserie sul lato sinistro, dove vedete questo è il toilet e questo è l'ingresso alla camera principale della casa, e a destra la biblioteca realizzata sia in massello che in lastronatura di Tech del Burma. Qui, per fare un po' riferimento alla semplicità delle linee, è il bagno in suite della stanza in fondo alla casa. Qui potete vedere una prospettiva dalla cucina, dove abbiamo realizzato un'isola, in realtà è una penisola, che è interamente ricoperta in rosso Francia venato a macchia aperta, di 3,30 metri per 1,60 m, anche qui è richiesta della committenza che ama cucinare. E poi potete vedere in fondo il rivestimento in Tech che copre l'armadiatura all'interno della quale si trova la lavanderia. Dalla cucina potete vedere il controcampo della prima immagine che abbiamo visto, vale a dire dalla cucina vediamo sia la sala da pranzo che in fondo il soggiorno, che è stato tutto rivestito sempre in ceppo di poltranio, tranne la parete di fondo che vedete qui, sempre in bianco di Carrara arabescato. Questo poi è il corridoio della zona notte, che è stato ricavato perché originariamente la casa era fatta da una sequenza di spazi, camere, nell'Ottocento per andare da una camera all'altra si attraversavano le camere in una sequenza verso l'altra. Questo qui è il bagno, possiamo chiamare padronale, tutto quanto rivestito in travertino ascolano venato. La peculiarità di questo bagno la potete trovare nell'immagine di destra, dove potete vedere che abbiamo ricavato una vasca dietro l'isola dove si trova il lavandino, perché lo spazio era veramente molto ridotto e la committenza aveva posto come richiesta fondamentale quella di avere una vasca. Per ultimo, un piccolo accenno alla competenza necessaria per poter realizzare un progetto di questo tipo, nel senso che noi come studio crediamo profondamente nella necessità di avere competenze tecniche per eseguire i compiti architettonici, e crediamo anche che la cosa fondamentale per un'architettura di qualità sia la capacità dell'architetto di interloquire con tutte le nuove figure delle nuove tecnologie che popolano le case. Grazie.
Please welcome on stage Conrad Architect in Designing with Ice Shore House project from Best International Houses exhibition.
It is truly incredible to be here in Venice. I think I'm almost crying. It's until 2 days ago, we were not able to leave Canada to come here. And for that reason, my presentation was created using the video technique, which I will show you. My last visit to Venice was 49 years ago. I was a young student, or actually going to be a student in architecture, and the city is forever the same. The only thing that has changed is myself. My hair was very long, not as white, of course, and I stayed at the student hostel. I must admit that the shower was very shocking because I put my arm in and I thought I was at the North Pole. It was so cold, and here we were in a warm city. I must say that at this point in time, I'm in a better location. The shower in the hotel is hot and it's very comfortable. So this is a voyage of discovery. I think we have all come together today to present our projects, and I've been really happy to discover the work of colleagues that I don't know, colleagues from Italy, colleagues from around the world, and at this point in time, it becomes a discovery for you of the work that I do. It has been 40 years since I've been in architecture, and basically I started doing landscape, then mostly interior design, and now architecture. So in fact, although I've advanced in age, it's almost like starting a career again. What I wanted to say is that I love my city, Montreal, and these projects are in Montreal. There is a certain similarity between Montreal and Venice for one reason. All the older areas were always a community built around the parish church. And these three projects relate to three of these areas that have certain characteristics that are common and that come together to show you what Montreal is, and therefore it's a visit for you to my city. Also, these projects are possibly different from what we have seen to date because they're on small properties in the inner city. They're actually repairing and rebuilding the city by creating new architecture where there was holes due to perhaps demolitions or other situations that occurred. And therefore, I've entitled my presentation "Of No Small Importance," because in fact, all the houses we've seen today are not large projects, but they are extremely important because they provide shelter to people. They create the spaces that are going to be their life spaces. And these projects are that same language. And therefore, I chose to present the three projects under the theme of no small importance. With this being said, I will become a member of the audience, such as you are, step back and let our people here put on the presentation. Thank you. And in fact, this building that we created is of no small importance. Here we are at the corner in this historic section of Montreal. The promise of the project that we wanted to is that of the environment that is locally surrounding the site that was chosen for the project. This is a unique environment. It was actually created about 150 years ago when this was the northern limit of the city of Montreal. This area in particular was of great significance. It actually links by this street two of the most major parks in Montreal, Parc La Fontaine to the east and Mount Royal Park to the west, of where I'm actually sitting at this point in time. When we were designing this building, we took note of the rich textures that gave the environment its principal character. A building had been demolished. There was a hole in this urban fabric. And here we had the chance to reweave this fabric, to bring it together again, and to make it meaningful. All the buildings are of small stature, they're all family houses, and they all have unique characteristics as if they represented a family that lived in it. Because the site is somewhat larger, we had to fit in 8 living units, and this is somewhat different than the neighbors that we had. We chose the Montreal red brick. It actually blends with the neighbors on each side of the building. And it's for this reason that we have very specific brick textures. And the bricks are actually woven together in different patterns as one progresses around the building to actually define sections of the building that create these dimensions that relate to the neighbors. We wanted to bring the corner together again. We wanted to recreate this corner and this strength of occupying space where buildings touch onto the sidewalk, and to respect the neighborhood. It's a very living part of Montreal. While it is 150 years old, it is one of the youngest, most vibrant feeling areas of the city. In the modern world of today, we are extremely impressed with major buildings, large towers, 50, 60, 70 stories or more. But the reality is that the great majority of people live in small houses, small areas, and small neighborhoods. And this project we are particularly proud of because we inspire ourselves from the neighbors and we create textures, we create dimensions that make unto the fact that we're reweaving the fabric and the texture of this city, this neighborhood of Montreal. There will be a second and third project. I invite you to visit the Casa Platform exhibit in Venice during the month of May to August this year, 2021. My name is Gary Conrad. Bienvenuto à la Casa Mia, Ice Shore House. Here we are. In creating the design for this house, I discovered that on the river, for many, many years, there was a tradition of the ice cutters who would come in the spring, cut the ice, and they would keep it for use during the summer. And it was that point in time, I decided I should explore how I could create a metaphor that would actually illustrate this activity. Really minimalistic, good flow between the spaces, and good flow also between inside and outside. This project was also awarded at the German Design Awards. An important component of the house is actually the glass surfaces. The major one is actually a stretch of glass that joins the front to the back. The greenish glass that is used in the house is in fact a reference to water, which when we look at it in the depth becomes tinted green or blue. And also ice, when it is seen in a certain depth, has a coloration of this nature. This is actually the natural color of glass. And since we wanted to have a very natural representation of the materials, it was chosen to present it as it is. Wood is very present. We wanted a concept and wanted a living environment that feels very natural. So by use of the wood, we create a lot of atmosphere, which is in between urban and country. The finishes are completed by the concrete floor. The geothermal ceiling to the wood, to the depth of the structure that is there, we wanted the floor to be very complementary instead of in conflict. There was an effort to relook at these materials, see how they could fit together. In this concept, they are interlocking elements that are very heavy and very transparent. So there's a contrast which creates an intrigue. At the same time, it obviously lets the light in to a great extent. I invite you to visit the Casa Platform exhibit in Venice during the month of May to August this year, 2021. And this is the third project coming out. And this is the window project. This project is very much a transition project. So this actual site where this building is placed was a coal yard. This area was initially built as a working class area. Houses and factories were intermingled, and progressively, after 1950, people would move away, go to the suburbs where life was considered greener and better. And therefore, this area fell into disarray. It was basically somewhat abandoned. This site then became available for redevelopment. In front of where I'm standing was a major paint production plant and stockyard. It gives you the idea of what really was here as we were getting into the process of wanting to redevelop this site. The whole area had the potential of transforming itself again into something viable, into something new, into something attractive to people who would want to come back to the city center to live, which is now the tendency. This project was very challenging because this was a personal investment. It was considered a major financial risk to actually invest here, to build something anew, while many of these houses were semi-abandoned, were very neglected. Slowly but surely, people began to buy them. People began to renovate them. And all this portion of the neighborhood was able to become regenerated. And this was the first project, the seed, in fact, that encouraged that process to occur. The concept came forth when I happened to be on vacation. There was the sand, there was the ocean waves, and you can see how that's actually translated through my impressions into the building here, where we have the tall grasses in front of the building and the sand-colored brick that was actually used to clad the building. At each corner of the building, I created a text which is inscribed on this side in French and on the other corner in English, the two languages of Montreal. These texts talk about this evolution of architecture, this evolution of living, this evolution of Montreal as people progressed and habitation progressed from the initial city core along the river out to the west end of the island. This text is a very interesting way to have a dialogue with the citizens as far as what architecture means and what architecture can mean for them through the gist of making architecture. I invite you to visit the Casa Platform exhibit in Venice during the month of May, August this year, 2021. I just wanted to take the opportunity to read you the text that was written on the building, because actually the text is very integral to the work we do as architects, all of us as architects. And I felt it was a way that I could, in a sense, connect with the citizens, but also connect with you fellow architects who have come here to present their project today. Lifted by the rising wind of enthusiasm, gust giving forth to gust, forms both imaginary and fluid, that buoyantly begin to burgeon. Not noticeable at first, but progressively they seem constrained by invisible hands, adopting configurations more and more orthogonal. Prompted by this phenomena, initial enthusiasm gives way to a growing curiosity, as the urban will challenges the definition of place and dwelling. Here for more than a century, houses of brick and wood, freestanding, joined, above, below, and beside, with archways to yards, reshaped and repositioned on this former coal yard. These streets, the essential bond of continuity between Ville-Marie, the initial core of Montreal, and successive suburbs flowing forth along the river of ideas, the river of places, the river of boundaries, all that harbor humanity. I would like to thank the platform group for having organized the event and giving myself and the others such a great opportunity to communicate as far as our work is concerned and to communicate with each other as professionals. So, viva platform, viva Venice.
And now, Luigi Cerbali with PR House from Best International Houses Exhibition.
Buonasera a tutti, sono l'architetto Lorini dello studio ALS di Brescia. La casa che andiamo a presentare è Casa PR, che nasce, si trova per l'appunto a Brescia. Allora, è un progetto recente del 2020, la fine della costruzione. Qui praticamente abbiamo il centro storico di Brescia, che è circondato interamente da mura storiche, il castello di Brescia e la Maddalena, il Colle Maddalena, che è una zona, diciamo, pedecollinare. La casa si trova qua, in questa posizione praticamente assolutamente delicata e in continuo dialogo praticamente con sostanzialmente questi elementi molto importanti che sono appunto la collina vicina, il monte Cidneo e il castello quattrocentesco visconteo esattamente di fronte. Premessa molto importante, nel senso che sostanzialmente questi caratteri del luogo hanno chiaramente dato un input fondamentale poi nel discorso della regia del progetto architettonico. Trattasi di una casa che sorge in un lotto che precedentemente era su cui precedentemente trovava luogo una casa anni 60, però senza grandi, diciamo, caratteri architettonici. Quello che si è voluto fare è sostanzialmente diciamo che il progetto cambia radicalmente quelli che sono i rapporti compositivi e volumetrici di quello che era, diciamo, l'edificio esistente rispetto a quella che è l'idea di progetto finale. Sono stati comunque mantenuti delle parti strutturali su cui poi è stato individuato, diciamo, questo nuovo volume. L'attenzione è vertita soprattutto come anticipavo prima, nel creare un dialogo con il contesto. Quindi si tratta di sostanzialmente un intervento che non voleva imporsi nel contesto come semplice novità, ma semplicemente andare praticamente per addizione sul paesaggio circostante. L'elemento, diciamo, gli elementi architettonici fondamentali che segnano praticamente questo progetto sono sicuramente l'utilizzo del laterizio praticamente per tutte le superfici. Si tratta di un laterizio studiato ad hoc con una fornace, quindi è stato studiato sia la composizione sia il tono di colore e altresì anche degli elementi speciali che andavano sostanzialmente a gestire problemi sulla gestione, per esempio, degli angoli a vista della struttura. Il secondo elemento, diciamo, fondamentale in questo volume sono sicuramente queste grandi vetrate che cercano di riflettere il più possibile di quello che è il contesto che lo circonda. Qui alcune immagini per cui si vede esattamente anche questo rapporto, quindi trattasi di edificio immerso sostanzialmente nella natura, e diciamo che l'utilizzo del laterizio, per l'uso del laterizio si è utilizzato una semplice posa sfalsata, come solitamente la posa diciamo più classica nel metodo costruttivo dei paramenti murari, ma senza ombra di dubbio diciamo che diciamo, l'aspetto più interessante è comunque il fatto che non non abbia una funzione chiaramente strutturale, ma semplicemente decorativa. E questa funzione estremamente decorativa viene anche sottolineata praticamente da questi pilastri e queste travi aggettanti sulla terrazza principale all'ultimo piano, che ribadiscono ulteriormente diciamo, questo aspetto decorativo e non tanto strutturale. La struttura dell'edificio è una struttura semplice a telaio con solai in cemento armato. L'edificio si sviluppa cioè dal punto di vista distributivo, si sviluppa su 3 piani. Il piano terra, che è quello più diciamo a contatto con ovviamente la parte maggiore del lotto del terreno, ospita per lo più degli ambienti di servizio. Abbiamo l'autorimessa, un piccolo appartamento per gli ospiti e locali accessori di lavanderia e caldaia. Il piano primo invece diciamo che è quello che individua sostanzialmente l'ampio soggiorno che è in comunicazione diretta con la cucina, a dividere diciamo, la zona notte questo ampio corridoio e quindi che separa le camere. Poi vedremo nelle fotografie degli interni come anche come il discorso di queste grandissime vetrate che sostanzialmente prendono quasi metà della superficie verticale dell'edificio, di fatto creano continuità poi proprio con il paesaggio esterno. Al piano secondo invece troviamo diciamo, la camera principale, camera padronale, con tutta questa serie di terrazzamenti a vari livelli e la zona guardaroba e palestra da questa parte. Al piano, diciamo, in linea con il livello del piano terra c'è praticamente l'uscita che accede a questa piscina. Questi sono gli interni, a sottolineare l'importanza del paramento esterno, diciamo, il laterizio è stato utilizzato anche in certi setti murari dell'interno dell'abitazione e diciamo che per creare ancora un maggiore contrasto con la superficie del solaio in cemento a vista, si è voluto incrementare questo senso quasi un po' rustico della superficie del laterizio, utilizzando come pavimentazione dei listoni a effetto un po' invecchiato. Questa è la vista praticamente dal soggiorno in direzione della cucina. Questo è un angolo sempre della cucina. Questa praticamente è la vista prospettica che si ha, quindi il Colle Cidneo con in vetta praticamente il nostro castello visconteo. Questi dei dettagli. Il vano scala che ha questa ringhiera particolare con effetto ramato in accordo diciamo cromatico con i paramenti murari esterni. La camera da letto praticamente all'ultimo piano, con il bagno, ecco. E questa poi la visione notturna alla fine dell'edificio. Il verde esterno dell'abitazione è ancora tuttora in corso d'opera, esatto. Però questo sostanzialmente è tutto il progetto. Grazie.
And now, here we go with the last presentation of our Platform Architecture Festival. Please welcome on stage Zach Architekten with Steelcraft House project from Best International Houses exhibition.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can hear us. Nice to be here together with Roland.
Thanks, Bart.
To present this project of ours in Utrecht. I'll take you to the next slide. It's called the Steelcraft House. Our office, Zek Architects, is in Utrecht in a kind of industrial area where we also work from, and we do a lot of transformations. The office is about 20 people approximately, and we work on new projects as well as transformations. And the size of the transformations over the years changed a little bit from smaller project to larger transformations. This was one of the first in Utrecht, a smaller house with a big extension on top, but this was some of the first projects where our identity was formed. And then it changed over to transforming churches, big industrial halls with a new interior, but always the combination of the existing building and there's kind of interpretation of the old themes into a new environment. Here you see on the left side the Dutch Parliament, which is now being built, temporarily Dutch Parliament, and on the right a special house which was built in Rotterdam. Also with private clients. We always work on several projects with private clients and also with clients and friends who build their own projects, like Roland, he will tell in the second half of this presentation. Well, it's about the Steelcraft House on the right, and on the left it was when we started the project years ago. It was a garage in an environment of the working class environment and a working class street. So it was a kind of environment where this a single building stood out of the rest of the street. Roland and Hanni here left on the picture. They bought the house and they wanted to make something. And the dog. The dog. I don't forget the dog. The dog is very important. They bought the house and they wanted to make something super special and built it themselves and with friends and be friends architects. My companion Marnix van der Meer drew the facade. He could not be here today. That's a shame, but hello Marnix, if you're looking at home. Yes. It's in Utrecht, in Holland. It's in the street, the Bouwstraat, and here you see some old pictures of the building. It's here, this one. And what we did was kind of, we wanted to make a building that stands out in the street and kind of a surprise, like the old garage also stood out in the street, the former garage. So we transformed, I should go one slide back. Yeah, like the kind of inspiration of the existing housing, kind of a transformation to a new kind of house based on the themes, the historical themes, but then super abstract. You see an image of the neighborhood. And this was actually the drawing, the first facade drawing we made. And you also see here the themes that were from like existing buildings in the street, the working class houses, very traditional build up. And we transformed them into an abstract facade where the same themes are being represented in a very different way. Like the big window on the ground, the rain pipes. You see here the same structure, the roof, the dormer on top, but all in a different interpretation, a very modernistic and made out of corten steel, fully out of corten steel. Next one. And here you see that in relation to the other facades, that the same themes are reinterpreted. You can see that the lines that are taken over, where the roof starts, and it's also one of the buildings in the streets that stands out. But like But the corten steel is also has the same color as the brickwork in a sense. So it's modern, but at the same time, it has a great patina, and it's getting nicer every day, I would say, and connects more to the environment every day. And here you can see the drawing which we made and the final result. But the patina of this steel is changing every day, like I said. And you see here all the different themes, the dormer, the roof, and what we did with the plastic of the rhythm of the facade. Yeah, Roland made a piece of art of this by himself and with friends, and made a super special project of it. You see more details of the corten steel, all made by hand. And also on the inside as a kind of warm wooden interior, which reflects actually and have a contrast with the steel outside facade, warm and light interior. You see how it was. It was actually
This was a
in-between house.
In-between house, which we built ourselves. And we got the idea that we needed more space. So we drew very many designs to top this house up with an extra floor. And these designs were so exciting, but had no real connection or relation with the rest of the buildings and houses in the street, nor with the neighborhood. So then Marnix van der Meer stepped in from ZEC Architects, Bart's colleague, and he drew this corten steel facade, which was my business at that time, to realize architectural works with metal. So it was an easy project. This is one of the first attempts to start the building. We engaged a building company which was next to my workshop, and they did the, let's say, basic structure, which was for a single person and something too big. Hey, je hebt dat dingetje. Ja. You can hardly imagine that we lived in this house. I made in the ground floor a plastic quarantine room where we put our bed, and our kitchen was over there, and the bathroom on the first floor was still fully operational, so we could use that. But you can see that we built a roof over the other roof, which was still existing, and with a lot of help from our friends, we demolished the existing roof so we could go on with the rest of the building. It was no job which was done in a very short time, as I organized and did it mainly by myself with a lot of help. You can see on every picture which is coming from now, friends of mine who are respectively architects, carpenters, craftsmen, or just friends. And they helped us with realizing this task. The neighborhood could also see that there was something going on, and it was not realized in a blink of an eye, as when a building company was engaged to realize it, but it took several years. The interior mainly was due to that. But it was no instantaneously result. So it was a gradual work where our neighbors on the opposite side of the street could see every step. Some further steps in the building process and some work done by myself in the workshop. Some further steps nearing completion. And here a cross section of the layout of the house. I didn't have any drawings fully designed for the interior, and I proceeded on doing a kind of one-to-one
work with cheap scrap building material, which I cut and put together to realize a prototyping of the different elements in the house. Like, for instance, this stairway, which I personally find very attractive, that the satisfaction comes from this kind of designing in making different functions to one element. This stairway is a cupboard, a stairway, of course, and a storage place, and a snug, a nice area to. I had a sitting cushion in the corner, and it was my personal private space, and you couldn't see it from the street. Some other views. The house was very light because of a fully glazed facade, or nearly fully glazed facade, and a sliding doors at the back. Also, you can see here the combination of different functions of the interior. A supporting wall which doubles as a cupboard, and the stairway was so extended that it was nice to sit on. Also, on 2 different floors, folding doors which fully opened and gave a spatial idea to the room, which was better than before. And only with 30 square meters per floor, it felt much bigger. The total of this house only counts 95 square meters over 3 floors, but friends entering all say it feels much bigger. This is the top floor with also the one-on-one prototyping elements where I made them from scrap material to see if they worked and had the spatial qualities for this house. Sometimes it failed, like the middle picture over there, where I made a bathroom and I wasn't very satisfied with it. So I tore it down and rebuilt it again. And on the right bottom is a mock-up of the nook under the dormer on the top floor, which was dissatisfactory as well. So we changed that too. About 4 cubic meters of oak went into the interior. You could see 1 cubic meter lying in my van at that time. Some friends, my wife, second from the left, and friends who are tiling, carpeting, myself holding a hood and admiring our work. This is me standing in the doorway. I'm not the owner anymore. We sold the house to a very satisfactory couple who did not change very much, and they also took most of the interior parts where we are very satisfied with. Thank you.
Bene, dico in italiano, poi dirò 2 parole in inglese. Con questo 4º giorno si conclude la prima edizione di Platform Architecture Festival. Dico prima edizione perché insomma l'esperienza è stata talmente positiva che speriamo di poterla ripetere alla prossima Biennale dell'Architettura, quindi nel 2023. È stata un'organizzazione complessa, perché quando abbiamo pensato di realizzare questo evento era il settembre 2019, abbiamo firmato il contratto per questa bellissima location ai primi di gennaio del 2020 e poi subito dopo c'è stato il lockdown, quindi ho un po' di ringraziamenti da fare, mi scuso se li faccio in italiano, ma perché sono emozionata e poi perché parlo meglio l'italiano ovviamente. No, allora, tutto questo è stato possibile perché intanto abbiamo avuto il sostegno di moltissime aziende che hanno creduto in questo evento in un momento in cui non si poteva pronunciare la parola evento. Sembrava che il mondo fosse fermo, lo era, però senza proiezione futura e noi con la nostra determinazione ci siamo rifiutati di fermarci e abbiamo continuato a cercare di coinvolgere le aziende a spiegare che era possibile fare un evento e farlo in presenza con tutti gli accorgimenti del caso. Siamo felici perché abbiamo curato una mostra che credo rappresenti, anzi 2 mostre, che credo diano una buona fotografia dell'architettura contemporanea oggi, con nomi molto noti dell'architettura, nomi non noti dell'architettura, ma non è questo il criterio di scelta. Il criterio di scelta è stata la qualità architettonica che si esprime sia con le grandissime committenze, sia con delle committenze con un budget da $50.000, come ci hanno insegnato i nostri amici cileni. E quindi è una questione di best practice e di amore per il proprio lavoro e non è una questione di dimensione. E questo noi volevamo dimostrarlo e credo che siamo riusciti a farlo. Voglio ringraziare la Misericordia, tutto il suo staff e anche proprio la direzione, perché senza la loro elasticità e la loro comprensione hanno voluto loro quanto noi questo evento, ci sono venuti incontro, ci hanno aiutato in ogni occasione, quando è stata spostata la prima volta la Biennale, hanno avuto e dimostrato massima comprensione e massima disponibilità, non li smetterò mai di ringraziare, ed è stato molto bello lavorare con loro. Gli sponsor li ho già ringraziati tutti, non le nomino perché sennò sicuramente ne dimentico qualcheduno, nemmeno i main sponsor, perché ho paura veramente tanto, insomma abbiamo comunicato abbastanza, ho assolutamente paura di dimenticarmi qualcheduno. Ringrazio i giovanissimi, cioè giovanissimi, gli abbastanza giovani Set Architects, che è lo studio che ha progettato l'allestimento che vedete qua, uno studio di Roma under 40, e sono stati molto bravi, professionali, e siamo assolutamente contenti di questa scelta. Li saluto, erano molto dispiaciuti di non poter essere qua. Saluto il chef, ringrazio il meraviglioso catering. Io mi sono portata, ho avuto il lusso di portarmi il mio chef, dico mio, non è mio, però lo considero come tale, Luciano Lissana, con tutto il suo staff che ci ha veramente seguito, aiutato, è venuto incontro in tutti i modi e ci ha regalato qualità anche in quello. E poi ringrazio il mio staff, la Cristina Bigliatti, vieni qua, la Cristina Bigliatti, Alessia Dondolini. In presenza questo evento l'abbiamo eretto, siamo 3 piccole donne e l'abbiamo fatto in 3, ma c'è tutto un gruppo di lavoro che è a casa, che ha prodotto i libri, che li ha impaginati, che li ha insomma è stato dietro a noi, a tutte le cose che vieni Alessia, al 1000 lavori che ci sono stati per realizzare questo allestimento. Ringrazio infine l'allestitore Evstyle e CDR, che hanno veramente, credo, fatto un ottimo lavoro. Voi sapete tutti che fare questo tipo di allestimenti a Venezia non è semplice e per noi era la prima volta e quindi ci hanno aiutato moltissimo. Quindi ringrazio nuovamente tutti i colleghi che ci hanno supportato in questa così, visione. La mostra resta aperta fino al 22 agosto, è aperta al pubblico, ha avuto grandissimo successo e speriamo di potervi comunicare altri numeri importanti. Ecco qui la nostra piscina. Vi ringraziamo tantissimo e vorremmo brindare assieme a voi a questa prima edizione, facendo finta che ci sia certamente una seconda edizione. Noi ci proveremo. Thank you so much for all architects that are coming from different parts of the world. Sorry, thanks in Italian because my English is terrible, but thank you deeply from my heart, because I know it's very difficult traveling in this time. Amazing project we selected, and so great work, and thank you very much for your coming again. Cosa? No, scusate, vedete giustamente fra i nostri partner tecnici però straordinari, la 3P che ha allestito tutta la parte audio-video, anche Matteo, e la nostra splendida regia che è da 4 giorni che è seduta lì. Non sono cartonati, sono veri. Bravissimi, grazie a tutti. Grazie.